All right. So welcome to the 9th episode of the How to Build a Black Nation with Power podcast. This podcast is about understanding and bringing together the many pieces of our empowerment and freedom puzzle under one unified roof as much as possible to ensure we don't become a permanent underclass in the country that's built on the backs of our ancestors. We want to make sure that we take into consideration that everything our people have done and the many things that our people are currently doing to move us forward, as we understand that we are most certainly not starting at square one. The podcast is titled How to Build a Black Nation with Power because we're trying to get our people to understand that building our own nation with power is most certainly possible if we have certain things in place. We absolutely must have a foundation by which we can build upon. We have to have proven leadership that knows what it's doing in the critical areas that we're being attacked and destroyed and or we are deficient. And of course, there has to be a spiritual connection with a higher power and one another as we seek to build this nation moving forward. And we most certainly believe that we have those three things in the Black Gold Nation. So tonight's guest to the show is Brother Craig B. Lee. And to most of you guys, he is most certainly not a stranger. We do a show every week and a movie review every other week. So he's most certainly been with us for a minute. Brother Craig is the Chief Consultant for the Black Gold Nation's Political Strategy and Implementation Department, as well as the Chief Consultant for our Adult Education Division. Tonight's episode is going to cover both aspects of what Brother Craig brings to the table. So, Brother Craig, let me start by first thanking you for taking time to have this conversation / interview introduction to Black people. I know you're extremely busy, and I sincerely thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be here. So, on that note, a little bit about Brother Craig. Brother Craig is the owner and CEO of Creole Soul Louisiana Meat Pies. He's the chairman of LACE, Liberation Advocates for Community Empowerment. He's the vice chairman of NICE, and he'll let us know what that means in a second, what that stands for. The chairman of Get Up, Generate Empowerment to Transform Underserved People. And he's also the empowerment coach for MOVE Empowerment Training, and Brother Craig has been a cultural social entrepreneur since 1995. He is a graduate of Xavier University with his BS in marketing and a minor in economics. Brother Craig's mission is to work for and serve the interests of citizens residing in Shreveport City Council District B and the entire city by promoting a dynamic philosophy of cultural diversity, advocating for the passage of just and equitable public policies, establishing a high standard of visionary leadership, and mentoring our youth to become our future leaders. So, Brother Craig, before I ask you if there's anything you want to add to that brief bio, what is NICE? What does NICE stand for? And what does MOVE stand for?
NICE is the 501c3 that I created to operate our Tuesday morning breakfast group program, and it stands for the National Institute for Community Empowerment.
Okay.
MOVE is my empowerment workshop that I created when I left corporate America in June 1995, and it stands for Motivating Our Voices Exponentially, moving the unconscious mind to consciousness from perception to reality.
Amen, amen. And give us a understanding, a description and understanding of what a cultural social entrepreneur is.
So, since our people are the original people of the planet, the original men, women, the original leaders, the original educators, scientists, business people of the planet, marketers of the planet, we were not born to be capitalists. So capitalism is not my focus. Mm-hmm. My focus is a concept that I've created that now seeks to have all ethnic groups who reside in a particular landmass being able to share within that process. And so since you're dealing with ethnicity and culture, I created a philosophy called culturalism. And within culturalism, you're not focused on profit first and foremost, but you know you have to make profit in order to benefit society. But the first part of society that you have to benefit is your ethnic cultural group.
That's right.
And hence the term cultra, C-U-L-T-R-A, cultra, social entrepreneur, an entity who operates within a business environment, not driven by profit, but driven by the tenets that we're focused on, which is the liberation, empowerment, and advancement of our people, and laying the foundation for other grassroots people of different ethnic groups.
Cool, cool. All right. So before I move on to the first question, which I guess will actually be the second question, is there anything you want to add to the brief bio? I was trying to keep it brief, but the more I pulled up on you, the more I referred to my notes. It was a lot. So is there anything you want to add to that brief bio?
And because we'll get into it, I will say, back in 1995, one of the greatest accomplishments that I will ever have in my life is participating with my former business partner, Israel Shadea, when we, I was looking at the type of architectural design work that he had in his mind and he was focused on. And I'm like, I came up with the concept of our architectural design philosophy and called it Afrocentric architecture, the philosophy of master building.
Okay.
And I merged my 6 pillars of empowerment in with his skill set, and we created the Dr. Howard Sims Dental Facility, which is the most phenomenal dental facility you'll find in America. It's built on a pier beam structure, which means that there's crawl space underneath the building. So whenever any plumbing issues occur in the dental structure, instead of having to dig the floor up, you now can go under and handle the plumbing. It's a phenomenal structure where he incorporated my 6 pillars of empowerment in the arc of the building. And that was a crowning achievement, as well as the work I've done on the Fair Share program to bring that about here in the city of Shreveport. And now, as we're focused on the disparity study, to now be able to move our race neutral program to a race conscious focus, and to know that I've been the architect on that is some of my best work.
Is a crowning achievement, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. So I don't think of all the questions that I listed, I don't think I've ever asked you this one, but what was life like for you growing up as a young brother in Shreveport, Louisiana?
It was good. I mean, I grew up in the hood. My mother, single parent household, up until I think 1975, my mother remarried. But growing up in the hood, nice inner city community. That at that time in the late 60s, early 70s, you still had teachers, principals. My principal stayed right across the street.
Oh, wow.
I got suspended in the 3rd grade for fighting, and needless to say, I got brutalized by my mom, and I had it worked out in my head that I was going to skip school until I could go back, and I didn't know that they made phone calls to my mom. So she came home, beat the hell out of me, and I had to go across the street to Miss Katie Pringle's house, and she's like, he's smart, but he got to go to school with the project. He liked to fight too much for West Shreveport. And so, but it was a very interesting childhood, because I grew up in Lakeside, Allendale section of Shreveport. And then when my mom remarried, we moved to a white flight area called Queensboro, where my grandfather had his home. And that's where I went to finish out my elementary, junior high, and high school. And that's where I just kind of, blew up, so to speak, here in the city. But that had already been laid from my childhood in Lakeside, Allendale, and also in the country, because I would go to my grandmother on the weekends, and that I know I'm just straight African because being in the country, the rural area of Northwest Louisiana, man, that was just you could explore.
Have some space.
My aunt didn't like me coming down there because she said I like to play with matches.
Okay, well, hopefully you grew out of that. So,
Starting fires.
I would have been an arsonist, if they didn't break my ass up. So just very inquisitive, and I grew up in a real cool village of elders who I could tell you this at this stage in the ball game, your family name, your family legacy makes a big difference. What your grandparents or great grandparents or parents laid down, it makes a big difference as to you having some favor from other people, and that's kind of like what has happened with me. So I didn't have any, although we grew up in poverty, we never did know it. So all of these, which is so funny to hear all of these stories from guys who had much better financial situations than I did, turn out to sell dope and all this kind of stuff. And I knew my mom never made over 15,000, and my dad had remarried somebody else to help her take care of her two children, but never gave any resources to me. So, but even with that, it was just a wonderful childhood growing up here in the city of Shreveport.
So did you by chance notice when you were growing up that there was a lot of Black business ownership and or a lot of Black people in politics at the time? Did you notice, or you were just kind of just living your life growing up?
Oh, no, I noticed that because like on my street, Ashton, on the corner of Ashton and Norma was White's Printing. So that was on that corner. Then right down the street was J.S. Williams Funeral Home. So Senator Greg Tarver, I told him this story. I say, when I was little, you used to pass down the street in your big Cadillac, and a few times you hit me. Right. And I said, when I grow up, I'm gonna whoop that dude's ass because he comes down the street very fast. So I tell Senator Tarver that story. So we were in pretty much your historic African-American community.
Yep.
So Black businesses were all around us at that time. And so, yeah, I was very cognizant of that.
Cool.
But politicians, no.
Okay. So I know you played sports in high school, but you were also in the band. Which one was your greater love at the time? Was it playing sports or was it the music?
Well, once this dude, we were playing community against community. Once this dude, I caught the football and he drove me in the ground and all my soul left my body. I was like, this football shit ain't for me.
Right, this ain't gonna cut it.
It ain't gonna cut it. So I was already in the band. I was a very good percussionist. I was a section leader in junior high school. So that really became my love. And we just played pickup ball, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, all those years. But yeah, music was my thing.
And was percussion the only instrument that you played?
Yeah. So I played basically everything in the percussion section, but my marching band, snare drum, concert band, I played everything. And then in stage band, you play the set. I wasn't as proficient as some of my other colleagues in set because we had a few other cats who were far more phenomenal than me on the set.
Okay. So I know that you are a very proud alumnus of Xavier University.
Yes, sir.
But I also know that wasn't necessarily the plan. So tell us how you got to Xavier, and then why are you so proud to be a graduate of that university?
Well, I mean, I knew nothing about Xavier up until my sophomore year in high school because Xavier wasn't recruiting in Shreveport, and it's a HBCU that is affiliated with the Catholic Church. So it's the only Catholic HBCU in the Western Hemisphere. So they weren't recruiting in Shreveport. And so I was one of the top.
I think you got a call. There you go.
I was one of the in the city of Shreveport at that time, and Delta Sigma Theta had a college works recruitment deal with HBCUs and College Expo, and Grambling, Southern, Dillard, several colleges were there. And so my junior high school teacher, Miss Loretta Z. Speed, was standing at the table, and she was like, "Lee, you're not interested in any of those schools?" And I was like, "Nah, not really too interested." Grambling was already recruiting me academically at that time. Okay. And so, but I wasn't sold on anybody. And on that table, I saw the catalog, Xavier, Xavier. And of course now the X is silent, so you say Xavier.
Right,
Xavier.
right.
And so Ms. Speed said, I said, "What do you know about this school, Ms. Speed?" And she said, "It's a small HBCU in New Orleans." Mm. And I was like, "Bam!" Because Dillard is in New Orleans too.
Okay.
But all the goddamn buildings are painted white, so it looked like a plantation.
Oh,
so
wow.
Didn't want to go to Dillard. I got sold on to Xavier. So at that point, I knew I was going to go to Xavier. I mean, so I turned down scholarships to go to Xavier. And then when I saw Bill Cosby on the Cosby Show wear a Xavier sweatshirt.
Right.
It's a sign for God.
That's still the deal.
That's still the deal.
Okay.
That's where I'm supposed to go.
So why do you call it, and you do this purposefully and specifically as with the words that you use, period, but you refer to it as the greatest university in the country, if not the planet. Why do you say that about Xavier?
The curriculum, it's a liberal arts curriculum, and it is so, between the curriculum, the history of the school, and the type of intellectual genius that I was around at that time from 1985 to 1989, and what continues to happen every year in and year out, the leadership, and then being in New Orleans. Mm. So let me spell it out for you. Every student at Xavier, regardless of major, regardless of your discipline, has to take 2 semesters of theology, 2 semesters of philosophy, and a semester of ethics. And I didn't know it at the time, but that would shape my worldview. Okay. It was there that I divorced myself from religiosity and got on this enlightenment path that I've been on for the past, this year would make 38 years. Mm-hmm. And so it was there where the light came on, and the experiences of being able to be connected with in forums where we had Stokely Carmichael, AKA Kwame Ture, mm-hmm. Xavier 3 times. I met Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth. I'm talking about, we met iconic folks, mm-hmm. Xavier, and it's like, whoa. So between all of that curriculum, I went to school with some of the most brilliant people in the world, in the history of the planet. These people were coming from private, public schools, salutatorians, valedictorians. Mothers were doctors and lawyers. I'm coming from the, I probably was the brokest cat on the yard. But you're around all of these phenomenal folks. And so it's like, you gotta step your game up. Mm-hmm. And so then you throw in New Orleans, Bayou Classic every year, Jazz Fest every year, Essence Fest every, I mean, bruh. I mean, you could just go stand up downtown in the quarter and be broke and just be entertained by all of the lights and people. So all of it combined. And then my good partner, James Heidel, his grandmother, Miss Leah Chase, the founder, owner of Dookie Restaurant, I'm around all of these people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all these folks went to school with Mark Moriel, who is the president of the National Urban League and former mayor of New Orleans. His sister and I, Cherie Moriel, we graduated together. Dr. Norman Francis, who was our president at the time, greatest president, longest serving president of any university in the history of the world.
Okay.
His daughter, Christina, we graduated together. Well, she's the president of Magic Johnson's corporation now. You know?
Wow. Okay. All right.
I graduate. These people, iconic folks that I grew up with in those 4 years. And it was just an honor to be around all of that talent and then to have some guys see some skill and talent in me and believe in me and invest in me.
Okay. So those two semesters of theology, 2 semesters of philosophy, and I guess 1 semester of ethics. I'm assuming those courses are not taught elsewhere?
Typically, they're not going to be taught elsewhere unless it's a private school. Public schools are not going to mandate that as a part of your curriculum. Community colleges are not going to mandate that. Technical colleges are not going to mandate that. So only your upper echelon institutions are going to mandate those types of courses. Okay,
so you said those courses and the schooling itself allowed you to divorce yourself from religiosity. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so help us understand what you mean by religiosity and what was that experience like for you to say, oh, I don't need it?
Well, I grew up just like most African descendants in America, under Christian umbrella. The denomination was Baptist, and but I had a different perspective on this thing early. I'm talking about 3-4 years old. I could see the hypocrisy of going to church. Because every Sunday, Reverend Austin would always get to the same closing, the third Sunday when Jesus got up with all power in his hand. And I would theatrically perform this for my And so early on, I could see, and I'm asking the deacons questions like, you ain't supposed to question God. And so I'm seeing the hypocrisy early in the ballgame. So I had already started to drift. And so by the time I graduated from Fair Park High School and went to Xavier, and my first theology class, Intro to Religious Studies, I'm in this class with people who are from Africa, so-called Middle East, and they're Sunni Muslim, and my brother Arthur Makunu, who came in from South Africa. So I'm in a class with these type of people. Never have been around any non-Christians and whatnot. And so I'm in the class like, dang, it's a shame that all these people going to hell. And so I say, but they smart and whatnot, but they going to hell. That was my mindset going into it. And as we got into going over the various religions, I started evolving. And when it finally came to discussing Christianity, I'll never forget this white teacher, I think her name was Miss Pope. She said, you you Southern Baptists, you all have no historical understanding of how the Bible came into existence. And I raise my hand and I say, we.
That's a good point.
and then I flash back to junior high school when my English teachers would say, always when you study a book, study the author, because it's going to tell you why he wrote what he wrote, their education, their family environment. And so I'm like, dude, I have just accepted everything in this book as factual. I've never studied who King James is, who wrote. And so that process is what helped me to now get to a point of saying, wait a minute, if I'm supposed to be like so-called Jesus, what religion was Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, Jesus didn't have a religion.
Right.
I think he was Hebrew. So if I'm trying to be like Jesus, shouldn't I be trying to be Hebrew? Oh, what? I am Hebrew? So now the question started coming. Yeah. Why do you stop at a red light versus go? Why do you go at a green light versus? So the questions just started to come. Mm-hmm. And that's how I said, no more religion. I said, there has to be another component within that. And that's how that divorce happened. And I haven't looked back since. I didn't do the typical thing where people leave Christianity and go to Islam or the other variation of Christianity, Rastafari or stuff like that. I made a complete break from religiosity. And now I began to study life. And that's how that happened. And so that structure never held on. I never held on to any other structure over the past, again, this year will be 38 years.
Got it. Okay. And you went to school for marketing and economics. Why those two disciplines? And was it always that, or did you start with one and add the other because they kind of work together?
So the beautiful thing about Xavier, yet again, I got to give it to the architects of the curriculum, because I wanted computer science to be my minor. But when you say marketing, you're automatically paired with economics.
Okay.
And I didn't know how important that would be until years later. Because now, everything I deal with every day,
right?
Marketing, economics, religiosity, all of these indoctrinated people. I would have never known how this would develop all these decades later. And so the marketing, economics, they were complementary pieces together. So once I selected that as a major, and if I had been vain, because hell, I had just as many hours almost in economics as I did in marketing. Had I been vain, I would have got with double major and whatnot, but I wasn't even thinking on that level. Okay. I just knew I liked both concepts, and now it's like, this is what I do.
Gotcha. Okay, and that's a good segue to the next question. You were given the title of chief consultant in the Black Gold Nation because, to be honest, I don't know anybody who connects the dots as it relates to how this whole thing works, as well as you do, especially when it comes to the political game. So from marketing and economics to politics, how did that journey happen? How did you go from marketing to economics to now being this genius of sorts that has a concrete fundamental understanding of politics, political systems, how this game is played? How did you make that maturation and journey?
So I was, again, going back to New Orleans at Xavier. So I was at Xavier when the first African American mayor was voted in, who was Dutch Moriel, who is the father of Mark Moriel,
right?
Who is the father of Cherie Moriel, who was my classmate. Mark Morial ends up being our political mentor at the time. So I got on the ground level doing grunt work, passing out flyers and things like that. And the first campaign I worked on almost immediately when I got to New Orleans was the campaign for William Jefferson versus Sidney Bartholomew. And so that began the process. Now, I was always intrigued about federal politics in Shreveport. Didn't know much about local politics because my mother, my grandmother, they weren't engaged in the political process in Shreveport. But one of my high school teachers, civics, Joe Shine, he was city councilman. Still didn't really know much about that because it wasn't a part of my household. It wasn't a part of, none of my friends' parents talked about it, and nobody at church talked about it. And so, but I watched television. I was always intrigued with the federal thing, and didn't know much about anything on the state level. But it was at Xavier where now I became connected with local, state, and federal through Mark Morial, helping to mentor, and then you connect to other individuals. I'd always been a leader. So in high school, I was SDA student council president, senior class president, National Society vice president. And so I carried that over into Xavier and was active with the SDA and became the de facto grassroots leader on campus after 1-2 years. So New Orleans helped to shape all of those things. And I think by my junior year, I was the host for our forums that we had held on campus. And from my freshman year to my senior year, I always participated in debate against upperclassmen and all of that. So I was connected. Oh, and this last thing, my true baptism, even before being mentored by Mark, I got to give it to my partners from Chicago. These cats, that's how I really got acclimated within local politics, the importance of it. I remember these cats, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors from Chicago. They had a group called the Chicago Club.
Okay. And
they were doing absentee balloting for Harold Washington in college. I said, what the hell?
What is this? Right.
Man, these cats were on it. So these cats were enlightened. And so I'm learning about Harold Washington, and, I'm connected with the cats from Chi-Town. We have philosophical debates, me and Dennis Garrett, who was our dorm director. He's a big time lawyer now in Chicago. And so I'm having debates and all this with these cats. And we're discussing concepts like whether or not we're Black or African, you know what I'm saying? So I remember crushing these guys by making a mockery of them when we were discussing that. And at the time I was on, we're Black, we're from Africa, but we Black, And I remember this guy, Jonas, saying, man, when you get you some enlightenment, some country,
when you really learn something.
I'm like, I'm all ready. I'm all ready to bomb. And when I was a senior, when I became a senior, he saw me. He had graduated, I think, in 87 or something like that. And he saw me and he said, man, I heard some great things about you. I said, man, I want to apologize when I was a freshman. And he said, man, you had that swag, whoop the whoop. And these cats helped to really shape me, especially at Chicago Club. So that's how all of that came to shaping, and I was able to connect all of that together. And I've told you the story about Dr. Lefevre, the chairman of the philosophy department.
Right.
He was the one who clicked the light that all of this is nothing but philosophy. And when he fucked up and did that, it was over. Because it's like, oh, these are thoughts.
Ideas. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, I get it. That's way before goddamn Neo and the Matrix and all that. You know, this is 1986.
Right.
And so all those experiences within a 1 year time span set the tone for everything I'm doing now.
Okay. So do you see the lack of political understanding and activity by Black people as our greatest weakness?
No, not the greatest weakness. It is definitely a great weakness, but as you know, I always say, the lack of spirituality and organic right culture is our greatest weakness. That's our greatest deficit, because by not having those two things in play, the willingness to learn and be educated on the complexity of all of these things in life is just not going to be there. And so that's our greatest weakness, and vice versa. If we tap into it, it's our greatest strength. Yeah, you know,
sure.
So everything revolves around those two things.
Okay, so let us know what the 6 pillars of empowerment are, and then give us and your definition is quite involved. So I guess you can give us an overview of your definition of the first 2. So give us the 6 pillars, and then I want you to define spirituality, and then tell us what you mean by organic right culture. So give us the 6 pillars, and then spirituality and organic right culture.
So first, you need to know what empowerment is. So empowerment, as I define it, is the ability to control your destiny. And the word "your" is a 2-part word: Y-O-U, individually, working collectively, in O-U-R, our communities, in order to help us achieve what we have been predestined to achieve if we submit our wills and our minds to the Creator and rock and roll with how we're supposed to roll. So that's the first thing. In order to achieve that individually and collectively, there are 6 components that I call the pillars. And I liken this onto building the infrastructure for a house or a commercial structure. So you have spirituality, you have organic right culture, and these, are terms that I've advanced over the past 26 years that I've created them. This will be 27 years here. Education, economics, socioeconomics, and politics. And you asked about the definition of spirituality. In short, since I don't have all my definitions on me, in short, spirituality is the power, that organic power that lies within a person, within an individual, that has been gifted to them by the Creator, but it lies dormant until it is unlocked, unleashed, and activated. But that is the power for right action, right conduct that connects you to the Creator and the righteous ancestral forces that cause you to be able to do supernatural things on planet Earth, and also serves as a protection for you from the forces of evil. Mm-hmm. So that's what spirituality is. As I tell people, it is not a belief.
Right.
It's power. This is nothing that you acquire by saying Hail Mary, and paying some goddamn tithes and offering. It's in you.
Right. It is what it is.
So and until you can break from those religious shackles, the preacher sells you on the belief that you got to go to this place to obtain spirituality, but it's already inside of you. Organic right culture is a term that I now employ. I created this term because culture is the structural design of how group of people, not fictitiously created, but biologically created, a group of people who are biologically connected to a particular ethnicity that now govern how you raise your family, how you dress, how you eat, how you govern, how you do business. This is the structural way that governs every aspect of your existence. And so those components go hand in hand. Spirituality being in place is your compass for right action and your power and your protection. And now your culture is the structural things that you do that regulates, governs how you roll under this spiritual umbrella. So that's why those two things, everything in life revolves around those two things. If you got them, you're going to do righteous, positive things. If you don't have them, you're going to do unrighteous, negative things. Right. It's really that simple. And then that goes into education. And I'm not talking about the acquisition of degrees and diplomas. I'm talking about learning, the acquisition of coming into learning. And that starts with having elder wisdom being imparted upon you, whether it be verbal, oral stories, or guiding you to read certain things. That then goes into studying various books, movies, CDs, whatever. Then you acquire understanding and comprehension of that which you are studying from elder counsel, and then you successfully apply that which you're learning. Then you morph that into knowledge, and through your knowledge, you then gain your own personal wisdom, which leads you into the ultimate component of overstanding. So those three things, spirituality, organic right culture, and education, are the most important of the three. And so now we get to economics, where people see, Craig, you don't understand. It's all about economics. See, stop.
No, stop.
There's a reason why out of $1.5 to $2 trillion in consumption spending, there's a reason why we only spend less than 3% amongst ourselves. Because you got to have a bonding agent.
That's right.
Or bonding agent.
Yep.
To consolidate those dollars.
Yep.
What's the bonding agent? Culture.
Yep.
But for us, it's spirituality, because spirituality is also that powerful component that has to detox our slave mind. So spirituality, culture, education is needed in order for you to now see the importance of producing your own goods and services, transporting them, storing them, distributing them, not only for your ethnic group, but then potentially for other ethnic groups. And within that now happens based on the first three. And then that peels into socioeconomics, which are the public elements that any area needs to deal with when we're talking about water, public transportation, public sick care, all of the things, public schooling, infrastructure, all of those things that are needed to run a municipality, a state, and whatnot, and ultimately last, politics, and not just from a standpoint of government, but this component of learning about personal and group agendas, the angles, the philosophy, the things that you're going to push, that's politics, whether it's governmental, family, marriage. Politics is in everything, because what it is an agenda. So if you got the first 5 in place, now your politics automatically, you're going to be consolidated.
Right.
If you got your first 3 in place, the next 3 automatically, fall in order, because now you have everything that's structured to push you in the right direction. And that's why it's such a struggle to get us on the same page, because we've been told the false bill of goods that it's okay for everybody to have their own goddamn philosophy. And if you're incompetent, you don't even need to be discussing that. You said you need to just fall in line with the righteous people who are about that life.
Right. And everyone, from your perspective, everyone is born with spirituality, yes?
No, not everyone.
Okay, help me understand that.
Some people are born evil.
Right. So and I'm glad you brought it up, because that's where I was going. I was thinking if everyone is born with it, then how do we speak of people who are born evil? So go ahead, because that's where I was headed.
Everybody's not born. The flip side of spiritual, because we live in a multidimensional world. So the flip side of that spiritual power is the non-spiritual power that taps into evil. So it's just like you have some snakes, some animals born poisonous, some animals born non-poisonous, and they could be of the same species. Snakes, or some snakes are poisonous, some snakes are non-poisonous. And so when you look at spirituality, I would say that the majority of people are born with it, but there's a segment of individuals who are not born with it. And some people are just structured to do what they do in terms of evil demeanor.
Okay, so 2 questions. Are you saying a poisonous snake is evil because it has poison?
No, I'm just giving you an example.
Okay.
That poison can actually kill us.
Yeah.
It's not going to kill them,
right?
But it can kill us.
Okay.
But a non-poisonous state wouldn't kill us. So I'm just simply saying, boom, a poisonous snake in the society is a harmful animal to us.
Gotcha. Okay.
Non-poisonous snake is not harmful to us. So I'm saying that spirituality is that positive element of non-poisonous, and the negative component would be the poisonous. But I'm not saying that the snake is evil per se.
Right.
I'm just saying that the Creator designs certain things to be that way naturally. It's just the natural order of it.
Got it. So would you say that spirituality, or even spirit, is energy?
Yeah, I can roll with that. That's a part of that. Yeah,
okay.
I can roll.
So in the understanding that there is balance.
It's not only energy, but I can roll with that. Yeah.
Okay. So with the understanding that there has to be a balance in everything. If spirituality is energy, and we're going to put it on the righteous side of energy, then you're saying that if a person is born evil, then it's the negative energy of spirituality? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's the flip side of it.
Okay, because there has to be a balance in the universe, yeah?
Yeah, it's the flip side of it.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so how did you come upon the 6 pillars? Those that's a pretty life-changing process and blueprint that you've come up with. So how did you come to the point where you had the 6 pillars of empowerment? Because you didn't read it.
No, I didn't read that. The creator.
Yeah.
I was July 1995.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I described for you, from my upbringing in Shreveport to Xavier, to my experiences in corporate America, and just observation and experiences, all of that culminated with these components. Initially, I called them the 6 principles of empowerment. But then I thought about it more when my partner and I, Israel, began to construct the game plan for the Dr. Howard Sims Dental Facility. I said, okay, these are pillars.
Right, because you're building upon them, or they hold up structures?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, I know you make a distinction between the many types of melanated African descendants. And I'm assuming that's not just here. That would be worldwide, right? For the six.
World.
All right. So what are those distinctions, and why is it so important that we understand that there are distinctions?
So on the Black side of being an African descendant in the world, and Black meaning not skin pigmentation, but state of mind of an African descendant. On the Black side, you have grassroots melanated African descendant, hence that overall dynamic. And then you have grassroots hybrid African descendants. Those are your Black factions. Underneath, the flip side of Black is Negro. So you got grassroots, melanated African descendants, grassroots hybrid melanated African descendants, because the skin pigmentation is the thing that people see, which they call Black,
right,
but it's just the melanin. The state of the mind being Black. So the flip of the state of the mind that's positive for African descendants, that's focused on liberating, advancing, and empowering our people. The flip side of that would be entities who are against liberating, empowering, and that is the Negro.
Yeah, despite how they look.
Regardless of how they goddamn look.
Right.
So now you have at the upper echelon of that Negro squad, you have your melanated Negro bourgeoisie. You got your melanated pseudo bourgeoisie. You have your melanated grassroots Negro, and you have your melanated savage Negro. Those are your Negro factions. And you gotta know that difference, because we're in a war, and one of the easiest things to, the number one thing that your enemy attempts to obtain in war is intelligence.
Right.
Intel.
Yep.
And so if you don't identify and distinguish people who are not in favor of you winning the war, and you believe that everybody who looks like you is the same,
you're gonna give away the secret sauce.
It's always lose.
That's right.
So that's how I came to put these factions together. And what's so funny, when I saw Divergent, I was like, damn, I'm on it, bro. There are factions that you're going to have, but I create these factions around our ethnic breakdown.
Right. Okay. All right. So most people, if you were to ask them to give you a list of issues that Black people have, they will come up with a bunch of symptoms. But of course, you narrow that down to 2 things. So what are the 2 issues that we have as a people on this planet?
But just slight correction. Most people are going to identify issues,
Mhm.
symptoms as problems.
Okay.
And so I say that there are only two problems
Gotcha.
that we have a lot of issues, a lot of symptomatic ailments, but only two problems. And the number one problem is the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy racism, that which we can't do anything directly to stop, but indirectly, we can impact it by directly handling our business with the second problem, which is no empowerment.
Right.
And I've explained, that's why I wanted to explain what empowerment is and how empowerment is achieved from an individual and collective or group perspective. So when you don't have empowerment, spiritually, culturally, educationally, economically, socially, and politically, now you have what? Drug abuse,
Chaos.
chaos,
Yeah.
murder, mayhem,
Right.
poverty. This is how that happens.
Right.
We can impact that directly.
Mm-hmm.
And by impacting that directly, that then has an indirect impact on our number one problem, because the white folks have to handle the good white folks, the people who say they're good white folks,
right,
have to be the gangsters, the new age John Browns.
Yeah.
They have to be the ones to handle that, because we can't do anything directly about that.
In all of your 50 plus years of living, have you come across a new age John Brown? Do they exist?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Open mind. But I haven't run across one. I mean, I haven't.
Right. So you said the two problems, one, the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy, racism, and lack of empowerment. So tell us more about that first one. What do you mean by the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy, racism? That's a lot. What do you mean by that?
So again, I go back to Xavier, Dr. Lefevre, understanding what philosophy actually is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know what, and this is really the sad, it's the sad part about this whole game that we're in. 99% of people, 99.5% of people will never take a class in philosophy.
Yes, sir.
So they don't even know what
it is.
They don't even know what it is. They will never take a class in theology. They'll never take a class in ethics. They'll never take a class in psychology. They would never take a class in any of these things. So it's damn near unfair for people to really believe that they can think and understand when they have no clue about these terms. And so when we talk about philosophy, we're talking about something that is so powerful and is directly connected to the cultural preservation of a particular ethnic group. Man, I mean, you're not going
to you mute. Right.
But you're not going to be able to shake someone who is rooted in a particular concept, because this structures them. So once you understand that these people, the European descendants, have a philosophy, and the philosophy is anti-you and your profession, if you can get that, then you'll understand why this is a perpetual war.
Yeah, if you can get that, it changes everything.
Yeah, and then that stops you from believing, like Martin Luther King, that you can convert these. That's why I use the example of the poisonous snake.
Yeah.
the damn poisonous snake was designed to be poison.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't pray the poison out of the poisonous snake or hope the poison out of poisonous snake. Why? Because the creator designed the goddamn snake to be poisonous.
But can you pray the poison out? Don't leave that out, because prayer is very powerful.
No, you can't pray the goddamn. You can't pray, hope, wish. You can't, do any of that.
Right.
Because the creator made it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. So all of that is rooted. If our people could get that point, but again, they've never taken philosophy.
Right.
And the theology that they are bombarded with tells them that everybody is love and is love your enemy and
right.
Okay.
Yeah. Despite the evidence to the contrary.
Exactly. So that's the philosophy.
Yeah.
So now you set it up with the system. Hold on. Let me see something. Hold on for a second. I want to read this to you. And you ain't got to believe me, but believe the white boy.
The Tocqueville?
Let's see what the Tocqueville has to say. Let's see what the Tocqueville had to say when he wrote in Democracy in America. If we reason from what passes in the world, we should almost say that the European is to other races of mankind what man himself is to lower animals. He makes them subservient to his use, and when he cannot subdue, he destroys them.
Mm-hmm.
Oppression has, at one stroke, deprived the descendants of Africans of almost all privileges of humanity. The Negro of the United States has lost even the remembrance of his country. The language which his forefathers spoke is never heard around him. What is language? Culture. He abjured their religion and forgot their customs when he ceased to belong to Africa. What is religion and custom? Culture. Without acquiring any claim to European privileges. But he remains halfway between the two communities, isolated between two races, sold by the one, repulsed by the other, finding not a spot in the universe to call by the name of country, except the faint image of a home which the shelter of his master's roof affords. But here is now the answer to the other two components. I explained philosophy. So now what is the system and the game of capitalistic white supremacy, racism? Because capitalistic white supremacy, racism is connected to the philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So now it is cleverly disguised within the system and the game. Well, Craig, you just talking. That's impossible. They ain't that smart. Let's see what the Tocqueville said. After having thus successfully taken each member of the community, not just each Negro, each member of the community in its powerful grasp and fashion him at will, fashion. The supreme power then extends its arm over the whole community. Follow me now. They get each member first. That's the micro component.
Yeah.
Then they extend the arm over the whole community. That's the macro component. I want y'all to pay attention. It covers the surface of society with a network of small and complicated rules, minute and uniform, through which the most original mind and the most energetic characters cannot penetrate Fred Hampton, the Black Panthers, Malcolm, original man.
Yeah.
To rise above the crowd. The will of a man is not shattered, but softened, bent, and guided. Men are seldom forced by it to act, but they are constantly restrained from acting. Such a power does not destroy, but it prevents existence. It does not tyrannize, because, you know, we're in a democracy, but it compresses, innervates, extinguishes, and stupefies of people, till each nation is reduced to nothing better than a flock of timid and industrious animals, of which government is the shepherd. That was written in the early 1800s.
Yeah.
And so that describes the system and the game that's connected to philosophy of capitalistic white supremacy, racism, and that's why you connect all of the dots together. And if you don't understand that, you ain't gonna never get it.
Well, for one, that's a lot to understand. So there would have to be some serious education going on for a person to understand that. Now, would you consider what you just wrote and what you just read? Would you consider the creators of that to be genius?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the Tocqueville, because understand that book is written by a white aristocrat, Alexis de Tocqueville, who came to observe this experiment in America.
Yep.
And this whole concept of democracy. And so he breaking it down for you firsthand. And he went around interviewing our ancestors and also the native Indians. I got to read this. I mean, it's just because this is you'll swear this dude just wrote this yesterday. The Negro, Sister Shan, you got to really pay attention to this. The Negro makes 1,000 fruitless efforts to insinuate himself among men who repulse him.
Wait, you can stop right there. I mean, game over.
Oh, but it gets worse.
Yeah.
Forms to the taste of his oppressors, adopts their opinions, and hopes by imitating them to form a part of their community. Having been told from infancy that his race is naturally inferior to that of the whites, he assents to the proposition and is ashamed of his own nation. Why you got to be wearing that African stuff? I ain't from Africa. What? Why you change your name? Nigga, we from America. I'm from Crenshaw Mafia, nigga. In each of his features, he discovers a trace of slavery. And if it were in his power, he would willingly rid himself of everything that makes him what he is. Hold on, lastly. Well, what happens if he becomes free, Sister Shan? If he becomes free, this is where we at right now. Independence is often felt by him to be a heavier burden than slavery. For having learned in the course of his life to submit to everything except reason, he is too unacquainted with her dictates to obey them. 1,000 new desires beset him, and he has not the knowledge and energy necessary to resist them. These are masters which is necessary to contend with, and he has learned only to submit and obey. In short, he is sunk to such a depth of wretchedness that while servitude brutalizes, liberty destroys him.
Now, let me ask you this question, because as you're reading that, I'm thinking about who de Tocqueville was observing as opposed to who we once were. So he's observing people who have been enslaved, not the African, which is not the same.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So
about the stripping of the culture.
Yeah.
See, he wouldn't know anything about spirituality.
That's right.
He focused on the culture because the language is gone.
Mm-hmm.
The customs are gone.
Yeah.
The religion is gone.
Yeah.
The clothing. So now, when you flash back to the 1970s, and Kunta Kinte is trying to say, I'm Kunta Kinte,
Mm-hmm.
and they the hell out of it. As a child, I'm like, nigga, why don't you just
give them what they want?
I wasn't understanding.
Yes.
He was trying to hold on to culture.
Yeah.
And they trying to take the culture from him. Why? Because they're trying to break him.
That's right. That's his identity. That's his everything. Yeah. So as you're reading that, not what you just read, but what you read before that, I'm thinking about our description that we came up with, I don't know how many episodes ago, and I think we need to change it. So the old description is a critical thinking, paranoid, psychotic, schizophrenic, serial killing, and mass murdering monster. That's our old description of those that run the system. So I want to change monster and add genius, and you let me know if this works. A critical thinking, paranoid, psychotic, schizophrenic, serial killing, and mass murdering genius.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So henceforth, that's how we're going to describe those that run this system. And they are motivated by their philosophy.
Oh yeah.
Right. So help us understand the players in this system.
I mean, you got your architects, your engineers, and your managers.
All right.
I break it down, I don't say them no more. See, architects, engineers, managers. Your architects and your engineers are your plutocrats.
Mm-hmm.
These are the shot callers. These are the designers of everything.
Okay.
And your managers are your oligarchs and then your aristocrats. And what they do, that's your shot callers at the top of the pole, and these are Europeans. And then in each ethnic group, those European oppressors assign a micro group of plutocrats, oligarchs, and aristocrats in each one of the different ethnic groups. And so they all come underneath the main group that runs the whole show. And it's just like a conductor, and you allow people certain freedoms to believe that they're free, but you always have the trump card because you got law enforcement, locally, state, nationally, federally. And so those are your players. I don't get caught up into all of the Bilderberg group. It's cool to learn about those things, but it's really irrelevant because you can't do anything about that. Most of these people, man, you got to understand, see the Bilderberg dude, you will never encounter these goddamn people. You ain't nothing that you're doing that will encounter these people unless you're in the game. Yes, sir.
That's it, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, why is it so important that we understand this hierarchy and this reality? Why is it so important?
Because this is the true layout of how this thing is done. See, these are factions.
Yeah.
And these are the gangsters that run the show. In order to be in power, bro, you got to be a gangster.
You got to be a gangster.
I'm an intellectual gangster.
Uh-huh.
So And this is why good people can't never win. We live in a multi-dimensional reality.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to have a flip side.
That's right.
Of the evil gangsters.
That's right.
That we now, the righteous intellectual gangsters, fighting for the liberation, empowerment, and advancement of our people. You got to be able to match them punk ass amateurs at the lowest level.
That's right.
You got to have an organized component that now can deal with organized crime. You got to have the elected officials and board members at the local level to lock down your territory, and to some degree at the state level. And then you got to have some of us who are the masters of this game. And if you don't get this, you'll always focus your attention on the amateurs, believing that they really call it shots.
Right.
They ain't calling the goddamn thing.
Right. Now, based on what you just said, Brother Craig, based on this picture that we're looking at, help us understand the importance of paying attention to the movies and the documentaries.
Because you're not going to ever be invited in to learn from the folks. The closest you're going to get is through their movies, their documentaries, and any books that some of them may come up with. And so Godfather, as you see being featured, those particular individuals who represent La Cosa Nostra, who gonna have a meeting with you on that? Who gonna talk with you?
Right.
You gotta be able to tap into the movies, and if you've unlocked, unleashed, and activated your third eye, then you can begin to see how this thing really plays out. Until then, I mean, you just gonna be ass out.
Yeah. And what is the ultimate goal of those that run this system?
Power and control of sheeple.
And how do they maintain and achieve those goals?
By keeping the majority of sheeple stupid.
Amen. All right.
Capitalism is predicated on the creation, maintenance, and expansion of a permanent underclass.
That is right.
And so they don't want to take out the goddamn trash, so we got to make people fall in line to rock and roll. I want to be able to treat you any kind of way, sexually or whatever. I want to exploit what I can call that shot. I'm your God, goddamn.
Yeah.
And I can do that. And until righteous people are ready to counter that, we'll still be in the same boat.
Okay. All right. So if you missed the beginning of the show, you're listening to the How to Build a Black Nation with Power podcast, where we're trying to understand and bring together the many pieces of our empowerment freedom puzzle under one unified roof to ensure we don't become a permanent underclass in the country that was built on the backs of our ancestors. Taking into consideration what our people have done and what so many are currently doing, our empowerment and freedom march is not starting at square one. So tonight's episode is our 9th episode, and our guest is Brother Craig B. Lee, who is our chief consultant for our political strategy and implementation department, as well as our adult education division. I am Brother Tamani. I'm the founder of the Black Gold Nation, and my co-host is Sister Shannon Ingram. She's the number 2 for the podcast, and at some point she's gonna ask a question. So next question, Brother Craig. A lot of our people, and maybe even people in general, they think the system in the United States is broken, so we have to quote unquote fix it. But your position is quite different in that regard. So the question is the system broken?
Hell no. It's working perfect. It was never intended to be working for your ass in the first place.
That's right.
So if you can't unlock, unleash, and activate your third eye, all you're gonna do is give a position from your limited understanding and comprehension, and from an idealistic and romantic view. That's all you can do from some fictional shit.
Perfect.
So the system, when people will say that, man, the prison system is broken. No, it's working fine. The school system is broken.
It's just not working fine for you. So that is a perfect segue to the next question. Matter of fact, perfect segue to the next 5 questions, literally. So with such a complex, multi-layered, and multi-dimensional interwoven system, like you just said, is not broken, is running quite well. How do Black people maneuver so that we can be empowered?
Well, first and foremost, you got to comprehend that the only way you can maneuver is to establish a goddamn team. Right? And the team, since they have a philosophy,
that's right,
a system and a game, you have to now establish a philosophy, system, and game to interact with them, because they are the shot callers in the macro component. And so we have to create our philosophy, system, and game at a smaller level that we can control.
That's right.
Hence, local municipal government and villages, towns, small cities, and mid-sized cities. That's the only way that we're going to rock and roll. But in order to do that, individually and collectively, you got to embrace the 6 pillars of empowerment. Without those 6 pillars, you're never going to detoxify your slave mind so that you can now roll with a sister Shan and a brother Tamani or a brother Craig, because you're going to always have your goddamn eye up. Yeah, that nigga probably just, I'm gonna watch it. Yeah, it sound good, but I know how niggas be, you know. So until you can get that slave mentality,
that's right,
out of these Negroes, even when you believe that they're rolling with you, working against you, because that's all they know.
That's right. That's right.
And so you go back to the movie Hollywood Shuffle, and Robert Townsend has this part of the movie where the slaves are escaping, and he's playing the butler. He's
right.
like, I don't know why y'all won't leave Malcolm. I mean, he beat us on Sunday. You know, he only beat us on Sunday. And so now the Negro male, up big and strong, instead of helping the sister, he helped the white female. You see what I'm saying? So this slave mentality, brother, is so just interwoven into the mind and brain, into the mind, that without those 6 pillars, number 1 being spirituality, number 2 being organic right culture, ain't no way you're gonna be able to build or maneuver in this game.
Okay, so the question was, with such a complex, multi-layered, and multi-dimensional interwoven system that runs quite well, how do Black people maneuver to be empowered? Your answer is via the 6 pillars of empowerment. Got it. Next question.
And individually and collectively at the local level.
Yeah, amen. Individually and collectively, especially at the local level. What do you say to brothers and sisters who believe that this is all just a spiritual battle, and we need to put our faith? And I'm not asking this tongue in cheek. I'm asking this seriously. What do you say to brothers and sisters who believe that this is all a spiritual battle, and we need to put our faith in God for answers and solutions?
Again, those individuals lack understanding and comprehension, and they are looking at the spiritual component as a belief system more than power, more than, as you just asked, could spirituality be energy? And yet there's an energy component to it across the board, offensively and defensively. So for those individuals who believe that, it's really not much to say to them other than they're incorrect, because the Creator has put you on this planet, given you two arms, 2 legs, a head, so that you can now make some things happen. And this is why we're so stagnant, because the Negro fears the outcome of getting engaged with these savages. They're oppressive. and they fear death.
Yeah.
If they could ever get to a point of you're gonna die.
Right.
At some point, it's just how you gonna die.
Right. Right. And that goes back to what you just read that the Tocqueville wrote. The mind is gone.
Yeah, the mind
so
is gone.
If your mind is gone, you ain't got nothing to fight with.
All right.
Next question. What do you say to brothers and sisters who believe that reparations are the way to go?
Again, I out of respect for our ancestors, that would be the only reason that we reference reparations.
Mm-hmm.
For those people who are immature and childish enough to believe that is a legitimate legislative issue that we should be fighting, other than out of respect, historical legacy respect for our ancestors, hey, you're crazy. Because that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen in terms of the votes. But it is what it is. You got a lot of, again, idealistic people. But if they really understood what happened over the past couple of years with Corona, they'll see what's going to happen if Negroes ever got reparations. They're just going to get the money right back.
So you just said in, I think, 2 words, why it'll never happen. Very briefly, why, as it relates to the votes, we will never get reparations the way we think we're going to get it. Explain that real quick as to why it'll never work that way.
Well, that at a federal level has to go through Congress, has to go through different committees. It has to be brought to the floor to be voted on. The Congress is majority white. Has to go through the Senate, the various committees to be voted on. The goddamn Senate is majority white.
Mm-hmm.
Then, depending on who the goddamn president, let's just say it made it through. If Donald Trump is the goddamn president, he can veto it. Now you gotta get a higher percentage of votes initially, and now you'll never, it'll never happen. It'll never happen.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to be clear. So what do you say to brothers and sisters who believe in a sovereign status of citizenship that would allow them to be left alone by white people, those that run this white supremacy system? I got some freedom papers kind of thing.
Yeah, they need to be on the 12th floor of the mental hospital, because again, they're dealing with idealism and romanticism. To be sovereign, that means you're doing your own infrastructure, your own economic system, your own internet. Dude, come on, man.
And what blows my mind, Brother Craig, is that even if you had all of that, the U.S. government does not care about your sovereignty. That's why they assassinate heads of state.
Exactly.
So the fact that we believe that I got my freedom papers and you can't bother, I mean, we really believe that.
Yes, people, and that's the idealism and romanticism that goes on. And no matter what they see, Gaddafi getting taken out, Mubarak getting taken out, how they played with Castro, how they played with Daniel Ortega. Brother, these folks don't give a damn that you are a sovereign. And that's when you actually have a legitimate state or country.
Right.
If you believe you're gonna do that on these shores, again, so I've learned to just understand, man. There's so many people just out to lunch.
Yeah, and lastly, what do you say to our brothers and sisters who believe that leaving America and relocating somewhere else is the answer?
They're weak. Running from white supremacy, racism, nigga, it's all over the place, man. So I get it. You can be and avoid some of the things that we deal with here in America, but you're weak and you're disrespectful to your ancestors here, because the only reason that you can even formulate that thought in your mind is that some other people died for you to rock and roll. And so to believe that you're gonna leave here and now just go, but most people They just roll on an individual. I guarantee you, Tamani, if you went and followed the majority of these Negroes who go over to whatever part of Africa or the Caribbean, Tamani, I guarantee you these people are not involved in the government. I guarantee you they're not involved in the empowerment struggle.
Right. So they're still not doing anything.
Yeah. And what's so crazy about it, most of those folks in Ghana and whatnot, guess what?
They're trying to get here. Yeah.
It's just crazy.
So it's going to take a unique group of Black people to make this happen via your 6 pillars from your perspective. I would assume that it won't be everybody, of course, because we don't all operate on the same cognitive level. So explain to us the difference between the 3 levels of understanding as relates to I don't want to give it away, but the exoteric and the other 2. Explain what those levels are and why they're so important to understand.
So you have exoteric, which is when you talk about information dissemination and learning, that's where the majority of people will be. And it's not any military organization, in any major organization structure with these 3 levels. Exoteric, foot soldiers, they get a certain information, typically propaganda, whatever you want to feed them. And then the management aspect apparatus, that's the mesoteric level. So they'll get more information than the exoteric because their job is to manage them. And then you have that core group, the esoteric, and that's your core group, your council who runs the entire show. And so people at the exoteric level, for the most part, they could care less how this whole thing operates. As long as they can get some weed, as long as they can get some whatever part, go to goddamn Dave and Buster's or Copeland, as long as they can take some cruises, they good, you know. So the esoteric people, those are the architects and the engineers of the show. The mesoteric individuals, those are the management component of the show. And then the foot soldiers, hey, your job is to consume. Your job is to provide labor. Your job is to not question. And they do their job absolutely wonderful. And so that's how this rolls in America and every other country in the world.
So would you say that the melanated grassroots hybrid is they operate on an esoteric level, or they have the ability to do so?
They have the ability to get there, but there's training that goes into that. Because I mean, I didn't just up and learn all this yesterday. This has been a long process. So are there individuals who could tap in? Yeah, but just like Neo in the Matrix, it's a process. You know, now once we can acquire money, status, and materialism, it helps expedite that process. I don't recommend people doing what I've done over the past 27 years of being in this fight, because most of them would have, given up. But I'm dedicating myself to make sure I can help those who can get this and really tap it.
Yeah. So you are running for office in Shreveport, Louisiana, but I really don't think I've ever heard from or know, and I know a few people who are run for office or in the political space, but they of course they don't move like you, they don't think like you, they don't operate like you. So what makes you so different? Why are you not like most politicians?
Well, first, I'm not a politician.
Yeah, that's why I laughed.
I'm a corporate grassroots revolutionary.
Beautiful.
In politics.
Yeah.
And one of my colleagues who works for the mayor's office now, she used to be the editor for the Times, Africa. I forget Africa's last name. I'll think about it in a minute. But Africa said, so Craig, I see you're a politician now, Africa Price. And I said, no, I'm a corporate grassroots revolutionary in politics. And she said, it's the same thing. She said, I said, no, it's not the same thing. She said, what's the difference? I say, politicians lied to you and corporate grassroots revolutionaries don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not going to lie to you at all, but I understand the overall game. And you hear me say corporate, so you got to have that component within the grassroots revolutionary struggle that you're rock and rolling with. So my corporate background, my upbringing, also my pedigree, my ancestors, I'm just one of those descendants of some great people who helped to shape this city and who helped to do major things between Louisiana and Texas and some other states as well. And so it's just kind of like in me to do what I'm doing.
So what makes the corporate grassroots revolutionary so important? What makes that merge of corporate and grassroots so necessary and needed?
Because those individuals who typically come out here, your Fred Hamptons, your Black Panther parties, your Stokely Carmichaels, their whole thing was to agitate against the architects, engineers, and managers of the philosophy system and game.
Right.
And their premise was, we're going to agitate against them in hopes that they now change the system.
We're going to make them do right.
Yeah, and that's retarded. And so when Bobby Seale and the other Panthers finally figured out that they needed to get into elected office to change public policy, when he ran for the mayor of Oakland, it was too late, right? So we've never had a prototype for legitimate grassroots advocacy, a legitimate grassroots revolution. We've never had an actual full-scale prototype. We've had certain elements that work, but we've never had a full-scale deal. And part of that is the corporate dynamic, because it has to be funded. But the funding got to come primarily from our people. Because if you're subject to other people's financing, they can now dictate what you will and what you will not say, what you will and what not do.
Yep.
And so that's why the corporate grassroots revolutionary is critical. The hybrid is critical to this process. And it just has never been done.
Right.
So that's my challenge before I close my eyes.
Amen. Can corporate grassroots revolutionaries be raised?
Oh yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they can be trained. There's certain elements that have to be there, but yeah, that can be cultivated and raised. The ideal, because I've had the question asked, are leaders born or are they made?
Mm-hmm.
And leaders are born.
Mm-hmm.
You can train someone to manage, but even if you're in a managerial position, AKA leadership position, just because you have a title don't mean you can lead.
Right.
You see, so that's something that you have to have the ability to do, and the majority of people don't have the ability to do that. And so that corporate grassroots revolutionary can be cultivated and nurtured, but if he or she has the ability to really lead, that's gold.
Yeah, amen. So per your candidacy for Shreveport City Council, you have specific plans, the things you want to do. Can you give us a brief overview of that high-level vision that you have for Shreveport, Louisiana?
One of the main things, I have to grow our population over the next 20 to 30 years by 300,000. That allows us to increase our tax base. It allows us to tap into a lot of funding in order to expedite a lot of plans that we have that concern our infrastructure. But we want to become a technologically advanced city. My game plan to position Shreveport as the home of Bones in the cultural tourism industry, the home of World Championship Dominoes competition, being able to integrate the three legislative bodies together, where the elected officials who look like us caucus together. So we synergize all this from the city council to the parish commission to the school board, because all of it connects.
Mhm.
Right now, they operate as a disjointed bodies, and that has to be changed. Coming up with legitimate crime prevention methods, and taking the people away from the premise of looking at crime through the eyes of the aftermath, where you hire more police officers, you do that, because that's not reducing or stopping crime.
Yeah.
And so these are just some of the things, transitioning our airport into an international airport from a regional airport, so we can bring our fares down. Just an array of different things, pushing for culturally based curriculum in public schools, establishing my own K through 12 learning institute with a culturally relevant curriculum. Getting city council meetings back from 3 o'clock to 5:30, so more people can come. And if they can't come, making social media access and the recordings of it, of all meetings, legislative meetings, city council, parish commission, and the committees, and the school board available. Engaging young people in the process. It's just an array of things. I have a 10-point platform that lays out quite a bit. It's about to be updated before we actually bring it out.
Cool. So can how you maneuver, can what you are planning to do, can that be duplicated in other places?
Well, that's the whole point of doing it in Shreveport. So we establish the prototype so it can be replicated in other villages, towns, small cities, and mid-sized cities.
So what must Black people do? What must we understand to do what you do? What is the one thing that we need to understand in order for us to duplicate your efforts in Shreveport and franchise the model, if you will?
You got to be willing to die for what you believe in.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be committed. You got to be committed, as Martin Luther King said. If a man isn't willing to die for something, he ain't fit to live. So I made it up in my mind that the liberation, empowerment, and advancement of African descendants in Shreveport, Caddo, Louisiana, the United States, and abroad, I made up in my mind in 1995 to divorce myself from my corporate position and roll the dice on what the Creator was guiding me to do. So you got to have a commitment level to this thing, and you got to be willing to go to the mat for it. And if you're not willing to die, you don't even need to consider getting in this game.
Right. So you know as well as I do, Brother Craig, that when it comes to us doing anything to move ourselves forward, those efforts are always targeted for destruction. How can we mobilize and organize for political power and take control of the local spaces where we live that are predominantly Black, and protect ourselves before, during, and after as we seek to achieve these goals? How are we going to protect ourselves and what we're trying to do?
You got to create a security team. Is not something that we can articulate on camera, but right. We have to have a seen and unseen security detail that can handle business accordingly. For those blockers and agent provocateurs and double agents who are working to prevent the liberation, empowerment, and advancement of our people. And we can make no qualms about what we actually have to do.
That's right.
Again, we're in a goddamn war.
That's right. Okay. As I always do with the revolutionary code at the end of that show podcast, and the movie review. If you could ensure that everyone who has seen this get one takeaway that they'll have with them for the rest of their lives, based on everything we talked about, you get one takeaway for everybody. What would that one takeaway be?
You must embrace the 6 pillars of empowerment in order to empower yourself as an individual and our people as a collective. And without that and the willingness to die for what you believe in, I mean, you'll never become who you should become in this world.
Yeah. Okay, amen. So before I close this thing out, Sister Shannon, do you have any questions for Brother Craig?
I do. I only have 3 questions.
All right.
One question is, I'm just kind of going back to a previous conversation we had in regards to the HBCU preservation campaign. Are you still doing that, and when are you launching that?
So tomorrow, I was supposed to call today. Brother Fred over in Dallas has the painting, and hopefully he's finished it, because we've had to do some logistical things to have the production price points right. So I'll call him tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be able to pick the painting up tomorrow or Friday, because I'm in town all week. But yeah, the answer to that question is absolutely yes.
Awesome. My second question is, I've just kind of been getting into a couple of groups on my Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces, different things like that. And a lot of them have been with people, in Africa. Do you think we will come to a space where we're able to reform our appearance in the media, as far as how the African people view Black people in America and vice versa?
We have to control various forms of media, from traditional to social media, and we have to be very deliberate and purposeful in the images that we reflect. There's going to be a major war between the Black African descendant and Negroes, because the Negroes are in those spaces, predominantly the Negroes in those spaces who are helping to create those images for on behalf of the architects, the engineers, and managers of the philosophy, system, and game. And we're going to have to confront them. And because when you mention, let's say, hip hop, and how the media allows this narrative to be created, Negroes who are in hip hop automatically jump to the defense of that which is indefensible. And they always relate back to movies or television shows where Marlon Brando played the Godfather. And, I've thought about this for years, and I said, you know what? That's such a bullshit cop-out, because when Marlon Brando stops playing Don Corleone and he goes out in the street, he don't go out in the street as Don Corleone. He goes out in the street as Marlon Brando. Mm-hmm. But when Snoop Dogg stops singing about bitches and hoes on the Chronic, Sister Shan, how does he go out into the public?
And Snoop Dogg?
Snoop Dogg still. I mean, it's crazy that you say that, because there was literally just a thing that popped up on my phone about him in somebody's car for some Super Bowl advertisement.
Exactly. So you think it's just by chance that this dude is being promoted through Super Bowl commercials, and he's never, his last name is Broadex. Brother, you never hear him. They say Snoop Dogg. Mm-hmm. They say Common. Yeah. They say all of the characters.
The characters, yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's it.
So the lines are blurred in our realm. And so we have very few entities, whether it be in media entertainment, television entertainment, sports entertainment, all of these different genres of entertainment, is very difficult to now bring a positive thing, but that's where the edutainment component comes in. And so if we don't leverage the money status in materialism, even at the least bit, we won't be able to change that. But when we do that, the good thing about social media, although there are a lot of negatives, you can then bring these concepts to light with talented people producing quality productions, and then people can now start to tap in. And you set a standard and you now maneuver accordingly. So I think it can happen. It will have to happen because that's part of the process of empowering our people. And that goes between Africa and America, and being able to work to change that structure. But more importantly, Sister Shan, we got to do some boots on the ground in Africa so that the people, our people on the continent, can actually see us in a better light, and then vice versa. Because I get sick and tired of Negroes talking about, nigga, you been to Africa, nigga? How you been? Nigga, you went to Africa when you was in the goddamn military. Like you went to no damn Africa. But guess what? Man, they don't even like us. Dude, that's such a bold-faced lie. But again, these are cop-outs. So we got to do some
exchanges
between the United States, our people here, our people over there, and now use the same apparatus, television, radio, social media, in order to show positive programs, projects, when we bring them here, some of our brothers and sisters, and then when we go over there. That now starts to eat away at those negative portrayals that are out there.
Okay. And then my last question kind of goes all the way back, but when you were saying that people are born evil, do you think it's possible for them to change or alter that reality to become good?
Only the creator can do that.
Okay. Nope, you just answered my next question.
Yeah, only the creator can change the nature, because I want you to think about it. So my former business partner said, Craig, you want to get to know the creator, study nature. So the only way that you alter nature of a lion is to now have a lion in captivity, and you're doing various things to that lion. But the creator is so beautiful. When the white boys in Las Vegas, used to stick their goddamn head down at the mouth of the tiger, it was just such a wonderful day when that goddamn tiger tried to bite his goddamn head off, because the tiger did what tigers do.
Yeah.
The tiger remembered, my job is to bite your ass. Instead of you using me as a prop and a test dummy, my job is to bite you. So my thing about that, Shannon, is only the creator can truly change the nature, but the white folks really do believe in that. Hence movies like The Island of Dr. Moreau, where you try to change the nature and all these things. But is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No. But whether it's possible or probable, it's all in the hands of the creator. But like Muhammad Ali said one time, if a goddamn a lot of snakes come down this runway, this format that we're on, he ain't gonna stop and try to figure out which snake is not poisonous. He gonna conclude that all of them are poisonous. So that person has to make himself or herself known that there's a transformation, and that can't just be verbal. It has to be action over a period of time, but only the creator can actually make that happen.
Thank you. You answered my questions. I mean, I took notes more than anything, as always, when it comes to you, Brother Craig. Like, I just appreciate you, and your brilliance. I really do. You're absolutely amazing. So thank you.
Appreciate you.
Cool. So as I stated initially, Brother Craig wears two hats in the Black-owned nation. He's our chief consultant of political strategy and implementation, as well as chief consultant for the adult education division. If you've been listening and paying attention, it shouldn't be hard to realize why he is in that capacity. But it's very, very, very important for us to realize that Brother Craig is one person. As awesome as he is, he's one brother. We got to build a nation. As he said earlier, you can't do this without a team. And he ain't no team by himself.
Nope.
So we have to find other Craig Lees in other areas of expertise, because doing it one way in one avenue ain't gonna work. God forbid if something happens to him tomorrow, who's next? On his level, who's next? Right? So we got to understand what we're doing, what we're up against, the importance of what we're doing, and more importantly, we got to understand the blueprint to do it. I tell people all the time that what we're doing in Houston via Our Black Slate with Brother Lloyd Ford is training for what we have to do in other predominantly Black spaces. So when we go to Shreveport, we can see how it looks. But we can't do that if we don't have a team that he's working with and that's supporting him. A team that's supporting other teams around the country in other areas by which we're being attacked. Brother Craig obviously is phenomenal in his area, but his area ain't every area. We got to find other Brother Craig Lees who are experts in their area so we can move forward and build as a unified group. Because as he said, this is a team sport and we lose because we don't play as a team. And our enemies will drop what they're doing. They'll put their fighting aside to deal with us colored folks because they refuse to allow us to build power. So we want to keep that in mind. We're looking for Black people who want to lead, Black people who want to help us find leaders, and Black people who want to be a part of something that matters as it relates to building power for Black people. So if you have expertise in any of these areas that are on the screen right now, please go to our website, blackownation.com, click on solutions, the leadership election, and nominate yourself as a candidate for the election. Now, if you know someone who has expertise in these areas, nominate them. If you are neither of those persons, but you want to help us find candidates, register to vote and help us build this nation, because no one's going to do it for us. But we really don't need anybody to do it for us. Everything we need, we already have. We just don't know it because we're not connected, we're not organized, and we don't talk to one another. So on that note, I'm going to close this thing out. Brother Craig needs to go take a break. What's wrong with you? Your neck hurt?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. On that note, any closing remarks, Craig?
Nah, that's it. Appreciate you and look forward to meeting these cats.
Amen. Shannon, any closing remarks?
Oh, just once again, thank you, fellas, for being selfless leaders, and I appreciate you guys.
All right. blackownation.com, people, let's build. Remember two things. No one can do everything, but if everyone does something, everything will get done. And absolutely, always, always, always remember that nothing is more sacred than liberation, salvation, empowerment, and freedom of Black people. Because if Black people don't make it, guess what? You ain't gonna make it. Why? Because you're Black. God bless y'all. Have a good evening. God bless. Peace.
Bye.